The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the Green Acres Garden Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jordan, back in studio for another great episode Talking Plants. Austin, how's it going there, buddy?
Hello, buddy, and welcome back to all of our listeners, and welcome to the fresh start of a new year, 2025. I'm so excited to have a clean slate.
There we go.
And to start a fresh year of gardening and podcasting and all the guests we're going to have this year. I'm so excited. How was your winter break here, Kevin?
It's been fantastic. The circle turns, the cycle continues.
Yes,
That's the thing that we love about gardening is that it brings there's new opportunity around each corner. Yeah. It's the new year. We're not going to worry about resolutions because those just get broken, but yeah. We will have some garden goals. And that's one of the cool things about kind of growing plants and gardening is you can kind of take your lumps as they come. You learn from that, and then you just move forward and you kind of hopefully make your own magic a little bit.
Yeah, don't get too caught up in the failures, right? And so when you're looking at a fresh start, like right now, what kind of goes through your head, Kevin? Are you have everything planned out already?
I am getting the garden planned out. I already have a garden planted at the school right now, thankfully. But as far as the spring and summer garden, the planning starts right now. Success in spring and summer for most people who are already growers. This is probably not news to you. It's like the work you put in right now pays dividends later on, whether that's starting seeds early or just amending your soil ahead of time or keeping ahead of the weeds, cover cropping, suppressing the weeds, whatever, building up your soil growth, or just planning out your garden in general. What are you going to grow? Where are you going to grow it? How are you going to get water to these plants? And how are you going to make it all successful? Austin, I brought you in a treat today. For my own garden. I was doing a little work over the break. I was actually in my backyard. I had to move my compost pile a little bit. So
you had to move a compost pile? That actually sounds kind of difficult.
I built I put together a playground, a little swing set for my children.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm raising the kids, the babies now. They're almost walking. And right now it's kind of like living with a couple of hobbits because there's a lot of meals. I feel like there's a lot of meals. There's breakfast, second breakfast, but even before lunch, I mean, there's just a lot of snacking going on.
Okay,
and they're little.
Hey, I love snacks. Snacks are great.
So it's great, but I had to move my compost, and while I did it, I sifted a bit of my compost pile, and I brought you in. I want to say it's the key to garden success. No matter what you do or what you're growing, it all comes to down to having really good soil, especially for your veggies and your herbs and your flowers. And so this is some freshly brewed compost. I brought you in just a little sampling, so check that out.
Look at
Bring
this.
my worm bin in.
Wow, you know what? I put it to my nose to see how it smelled, and there's not even a smell.
It's earthy. So that's sifted compost.
Wow.
It's finished. It's all going to look different based upon whatever you're putting into your compost. Mine's a mixture of lawn clippings and vegetable scraps, yard waste, all that chopped up, mixed up,
nice,
and brewed up. And so it's rich, it's earthy. It's actually has a little bit of moisture in it from the rain, but it's really fluffy, if anything. So a ton of organic matter. If you have soil at home that is a little bit stubborn, or you've had a little, lack of success, even if you started off with a really great soil, whether it's a raised bed, pots, in-ground, what have you, you need to amend your soil. Right now is a great time. I think the word of the week, Austin, is top dressing.
Top dressing. Okay, that's the word of the week. Let's do it again with a little music here. Okay, the word of the week is
top dressing. There we go. I like that. And so really, it's one of those easy things you can do. Right now, the weather's pretty decent. We're having a little bit of rain, but having some sunny weather in between. if you can get a few bags or even some scoopfuls or whatever, get your hands on some organic matter, some compost, some soil amendment. And if you can add a couple inches, maybe at 1 to 3, 2 to 3 inches of rich compost. Some of them have earthworm castings. There might be chicken manure, bat guano, kelp meal ground in there, whatever. You'll see different mixtures out there. Really, it's that organic matter, and having an array that comes from different sources can be helpful. But it's really there to liven up your soil, bring it back to life. I was going to joke with you.
Yeah.
I brought you over some roommates.
All these
in that bag,
the microorganisms?
Yes.
In there?
So inside that bag, there are probably more microorganisms than there are people on the planet.
That's wild.
There should be, if it's healthy, living soil, living compost in that bag, there could be billions of microbes.
Can I have this?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I brought that for you to keep.
I'll put it on my houseplants.
Yeah, dude, go for it.
Yeah.
Top dressing.
Okay, top dressing.
There
I love
we go.
that.
Word of the week.
So that's like your first advice to anybody starting the new year: top dressing.
Absolutely. So, like I said, even if you had a ton of success last year, you probably already know this.
Right.
This is probably not news for people who are listening who are like, oh yeah, I grow. I know the power of compost. Top dressing, layering on. Some people call it like layering. But just it's so simple. It takes little to no effort because you're really just layering it on, just putting a nice little blanket of soil on top. And actually, right now is actually not a bad time to do it because then you can kind of protect what existing soil you have. Get a layer in now, layer in some more in spring. But top dressing is great. You can do it around established trees, not up against the trunk, obviously, but around the root zone. In pots, that's really nice because even in a pot that started off with really nice soil potting mix, it breaks down. We've talked about this before, that the pore spaces are now shrunken down. The organic matter that was in there is broken down a bit more. It's settled, it shrinks down. Some of it's leached out the bottom of the pot, so you replenish it.
Good.
So
yeah,
there we
a
go.
little refresh on the
we all
on the compost. Thank you so much for bringing that in. That's cool to see it. Yeah, thanks for bringing that in. That's so cool. But you brought up the little bit of moisture in the bag, made me think about the climate. You mentioned we've had a little moisture.
Hallelujah.
A little cold too. And I was wondering if, I actually just made a video about frost protection, and frost has been on my mind, and we've had a couple cold days, but not that many. You think there's going to be more frost dates coming?
Hey, I'm far from a meteorologist, but we're in that time of year. Then, yeah, absolutely.
Right, because we
shocked.
haven't made it to like the coldest or the darkest day yet, right? So I think more cold's coming
for sure.
And I was learning about how that frost cloth, you really need to make contact with the ground
to trap in that warmth.
From the earth, right? I didn't get that that's what was going on.
Yeah, it's odd to think, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of heat coming off of Mother Earth, and really just keeping that cold air off of that root system, off of some of those tender leaves. Really depends on the plant you're growing and how you're trying to protect it. But yeah, for some people with some plants, when it gets at or below freezing, you're going to notice some stress, some damage. So frost cloth absolutely can be helpful, necessary, especially for those people who really have those prized specimen plants. They don't want to see damaged or hurt. And that a cold snap is coming. You just you keep your eye on the weather forecast and kind of get out there and protect them. Luckily for us at the school, we have some citrus, we have some other fruit trees and things, but the deciduous ones love the cold, and the citrus trees we've had so far have really put up with the cold, thankfully. And we've had a ton of success. But I know for some people where they're at, they really want to protect like their lime trees and things like that might be a little more susceptible. So, you got to do what you got to do. And the frost fabric, it's one of those easy things that you can kind of just preparation. And it's, an ounce of preparation or whatever is worth a ton of cure.
Awesome. Well, in the spirit of, starting a new year here, Kevin, I have some questions that we've gotten from listeners. There's, some other sources of questions in here too, and I wanted to throw some at you.
Please.
See if we could do a little Q&A and bounce around a few different topics and kind of answer questions that, this is what people have on their mind right now. So is that okay? Can I fire some questions at you?
Absolutely. Fire away.
Okay.
You know what? I'm so excited. Honestly, you brought up the new year and we got this new perspective. It got me thinking, and I don't want to derail it, but I had this idea, and every time I'm out in the garden and growing, I start like thinking about the food I'm going to cultivate because I love growing food. And I had this idea that it's so cyclical for me, where gardening gets me really excited to cook. But then when I'm cooking, I get really fired up about the food I'm going to grow. So it's like, I don't know if it's like a snake eating its tail or what. But it's got me really fired up for just this growing season. So
cool.
I'm glad other people are maybe.
Let's dive into some questions.
Please.
So the first one here is timely, and their question is it too late to sow seeds for cover crops in January?
Ooh, the best time would have been definitely in the fall, for sure. When we were talking about it, you have a bit more warmth. Talk about the trapping down the heat of the earth. We had a lot more warmth in the soil then, and that would really help with germination. Out here, you're seeing with the rains, a lot of stuff are sprouting right now, so it's not impossible. I think maybe some might be better than others, but you might be better just to wait a little bit and then plant late winter, early spring, or just next year in the fall. Sow then as well, or consider. But like I said, our weather is so mild here that even though we were talking about getting the cold, crazier things have happened. So if you want to experiment, don't let me stop you from experimenting. But fall's the best time. Second best time, maybe another month or two when things warm up at the end of winter.
Okay, so Kevin, in the spirit of cover cropping, I've got another question here. They said that I read that tilling the soil is not advisable. I'm growing cover crops to fortify my soil for my summer garden. If I cut back the crops, it says they're growing fava beans, should I not till them into the ground?
You know what? I might have to change my answer halfway through. Okay, so fava beans are quite delicious. Okay. You can actually let those go to maturity and enjoy them, and they're still at least protecting the soil. Their roots are stabilizing it. You're getting some benefit there, and you can eventually cut it down or remove it. Those fava beans, amazing. Even the leaves. Remember, we were eating the leaves of them.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of fun you can have even if you let it go to maturity. But I think typically people want it, you let it grow, and just as that plant is beginning to show signs of some maturity, it's starting to have some bud formation, then boom, you cut it down really quick, and then you can mix the plant material into the soil right away. You can collect it and compost it. You can let it lay there on the soil for some time and then chop it up and mix it in. Really, the choice is yours. But for me, it's like it really depends on maybe on the plant you're growing and what you want out of it. Sometimes that crimson and clover, I like the flowers a bit, and they're bringing in pollinators and doing some other things. So it's the answer. I guess it really depends. But they said the fava beans, which, like I said, you can chop and chop, or you can leave it and eat it and just enjoy it, because that's kind of fun too.
Okay, but they did ask about they're trying to not till the soil, so it is okay to just drop it, right? You don't have to work it in.
No, they can just drop it, leave it there, and it's what's nice is it'll suppress some weeds that might want to sprout up. It's going to break down. You could scrape it up and compost it separately, and then add it back in as a top dressing. So there's some options there for sure.
Okay,
you don't have to go. What's nice is no-till gardening might be something that we're going to have to talk a bit about more this year. I think it's one of those hands-off gardening techniques that is just. It sounds really cool in that you're like, to people, you're like, oh, no till. You're like, I like that. I want to do less work, but it takes more effort in that you want to effort towards soil building. But that effort is certainly worth it.
Yeah.
Layered up, top dressings. Yeah.
Top dressing, you said.
Layered up. Yeah. And so that's one approach for sure. And the cover crops are a fantastic, the piece of that puzzle for sure.
Cool. Okay. All right. Moving right along. This person is asking about a crop that I haven't done yet. I want to, and I feel like, so what they're asking here is, when is the best time to plant potatoes? And I feel like that's soon.
Yes. For us, we get 2 seasons to a degree, if not a little bit more, to grow potatoes. At the school, sometimes what I really like to do is I like to grow them right at the early cusp of when it's just warm enough for them to sprout at the end of winter. So that way we can have them grow to maturity and harvest them right before the end of the school year. And then we till up, we add compost, and then we replant all those beds right before we leave for the summer. put all our summer crops in, squash and beans and whatnot, and tomatoes and peppers, of course. So for us, the earliest is I think like mid to end of February.
Okay.
And that's really pushing it. For us, I think spring to summertime is great, and then at the end of summer, you get another opportunity then to plant it and then get a harvest before the winter comes. And so what's cool about potatoes is that they're really easy to grow. They're delicious. You can get your hands often if you're growing them as seed potatoes, which is like a smaller just potato you get your hands on. And what you want is we want to look for one that's firm. It shouldn't be mushy or weird looking. Should have multiple eyes on there. A lot of people like to cut them in half to like multiply, their seeds, or like how many potatoes that they get to plant as a seed. I should clarify, and do that only if it's really large. Sometimes I'll get some, they're so small to begin with that I just plant them individually and I don't cut them up.
Even if it's got multiple eyes on it?
Yeah, so you want to make sure that it has at least 3 eyes for me.
Oh,
if not
you
more.
You want to have multiple.
Yeah,
okay.
So that's what all the eyes are, those little dimples on there, those belly.
Kind of freaky.
Those are all the little, the points of origin for all the sprouting, right? And for all the growth. And so for me, potatoes are a great way to just practice gardening and growing. Whether you're just for yourself or with kids or anybody. In containers in the ground. They're really fun. The purple ones, the red ones, the fingerlings, the ones that are really good for frying, ones that are just make the sweetest mashed potatoes of your life. Some where the skin is so thin and it's just flavorful that you don't even have to remove the skin. You just cook it and eat it, and you're good to go. So I love them, and they kind of tell you when they're done growing. They basically just exhaust themselves. It usually takes about 4 months. I think it's like 120 days, give or take, on the variety. And they just will start flowering. The leaves start getting yellow. And it's kind of like watching garlic grow in a way, where it grows. It looks so healthy and vibrant. And it's putting off all these new leaves. And then all of a sudden, it looks spotty. And the leaves start dwindling and looking curled up and kind of dying. And you're like, oh, no, I'm doing something. No, it's just ending. It's at the end of its life cycle. And then you just dig those suckers up, man. We could do a whole episode on taters.
I know. Dave Fierro, a friend of the show, was reaching out to me because he was recently harvesting a bunch of sweet potatoes.
Oh, that would be great.
And I missed the chance to be able to see it. Sorry, Dave, but I do want to catch that next time and the beginning of the process.
We should talk planting, yeah. Sweet potatoes as well, because potatoes and sweet potatoes, quite a bit different, but some similarities for sure.
Oh, okay.
But interesting plants nonetheless.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's move on to another question here. Okay, so let's see what we got here. This one says, I have always been told that winter is the best time to prune fruit trees. I recently saw that you should prune them twice a year. Why is that? I also read that cherries and apricots should only be pruned in the summer and not winter. I am confused. Okay, so let's help this listener out.
So true, yes. No lies detected. This is actually a really great question because right now is the time of the year to be pruning a lot of your fruit trees. So we brought it up in other episodes. A lot of your dormant fruit trees, your apples, your pears, your peaches and your plums, your apricots eventually, they do need pruning for sure. And so a lot of them are getting done right now. The difference between apricots and cherries that the listener writes down is that they're really susceptible to illness, to disease that they get that's from moisture, and all these fresh cuts at times when there's a lot of rain can leave them vulnerable, to my understanding. And so when they prefer to get cut when you have many, many weeks of dry weather, so that way you ensure or you lessen your chance of getting these illnesses on these trees. And so it just has to do with their susceptibility to certain illnesses. So pruning them in the summertime, giving them a cut. What I'll do for my apricots and my cherries is I do keep them cut quite a bit in the summer to control their overall size and backyard orchard culture style. I'm really trying to bring down their growth quite a bit. And so that's why it's necessary for not just them, but all the fruit trees. You prune them at one point in the year, and you have to prune them again just to corral all that growth, especially for just the backyard or home garden. You don't really require yourself success to have this massive fruit tree. You can really get I think you'd be shocked, the normal person, how much fruit you could get off of a tree that's 6-7 feet tall and wide, and like just tall enough to reach on your tiptoes is about where they should be. And so pruning in the summer and again pruning in the winter is necessary. But for those cherries and apricots, prune them at the end of the summer and fall. And then what I do again to really bring down their overall size and do what would normally be my winter pruning, I do it right as winter breaks, as their buds begin to form for spring. When a lot of that rain is kind of coming to an end. And for me, that's when I do a lot of that. So I hope that answers the question. As it goes to all your other fruit trees, yes, sir, prune them right now. I'm going through my neighborhood on walks. I'm noticing all these fruit trees, the pluots and the cherries and all these different deciduous fruit trees. Right now is a great time to plant, not just plant them. That's a Freudian slip. Right now is a great time to prune them, actually, as well as plant them. But when they're dormant, this is just a perfect. Actually, I was out in my garden just yesterday cutting back my apple tree. And it's one of those things even for me, where I'm like, oh man, it broke my heart a little bit.
Really?
Because I planted it this last winter, this little pink lady. She's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, you should meet her, Austin. She's so sweet. Crunchy as well. But even in that first year, from just a little potted up, like 5-gallon in a fiber pot.
It took off.
Dude, it exploded in growth. It was like 6-7 feet tall, and I pruned it several times in the summer.
Wow.
To bring down its height, and I was really trying to force. A lot of the branches wanted to go vertical instantly, so I had to keep pruning it and go, no, kids.
Yeah,
and
spread out.
I'm spread out, so I'm kind of pushing down the limbs. Some people will even use other branches and cut little branches to make limb spreaders to kind of push those limbs out a little bit.
Yeah.
So
That's
you can
cool.
you can get a little creative. But so I was pruning it, forcing out that horizontal growth, and now it's kind of reaching dormancy. And like I said, I was like, ugh, but I knew it, so I topped it a little bit. I brought it down, pushed that canopy down just a little bit, so that way as it grows, hopefully as it matures, I'll have this nice, just husky, healthy little tree that I can reach, that I don't have to get a ladder out to prune or eat. So that's kind of fun. So
Well, that's cool. This new one's coming along very well. That's great to hear. And you said, you mentioned the fiber pot, right?
yes, I did.
Well, that's cool because I've just been working on these videos about bare root trees. And I figured, did you get it from Green Acres as a fiber pot? Bare
I
root?
did, for sure.
Yeah.
Of course, Citrus Heights location, shout out.
Okay, cool. So I'm doing the deep dive on this. I went to Matsuda's and I saw the bare roots arrive and then get
Jealous.
processed and then arrive at the stores. It's been so cool to see the whole story, and that is going to come out soon. So it's not ready yet, but soon we'll be able to.
That'll start the great bare root debate.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, you're a believer in bare roots, right?
Well, this is the perfect time of the year, for finding fruit tree. You wouldn't think about it. You're like, oh, fruit trees, I'll wait for the spring or summertime. That's when fruit is doing its thing. But really right now, I know it's cold, a little bit rainy, but if you want to create your own salad garden, your own fruit salad garden at your home with just a small little orchard, you'd be shocked at the amount of fruit that 3 trees will provide. I myself, I just have now a little apple tree, but what's mature is I have a lemon tree, puts off amazing amounts of lemons, and it's not even that big of a tree. It's 5 feet tall, 5 feet wide. It puts off more lemons than we can eat, and it's a Meyer lemon. So basically, it's a perpetual harvest throughout the year where it just keeps producing these cycles, which is great.
Nice.
The orange tree is packed full of some oranges, some caracaras, but I had grafted on a mandarin onto that tree. It's now flush, Austin. I'll show you a picture.
That's
It is
great.
just dangling with the clusters of these Awari Satsuma mandarins. They're seedless. The skin just peels off like a I'm not going to say. It just peels off very easily. Okay, yeah. It peels off like my Carhartt jacket after a few beers. You know what I mean? I don't even have a Carhartt jacket.
That's
I
clean,
just kind of wanted to make it seem
okay.
but no, it's just a small amount of fruit trees, goes an amazing way. Amazingly long way. Right now, the best time.
Yeah,
to
they're
get
all
your
in
hands.
stores now.
For sure.
All the bareroot fruit trees, all the bareroot roses, it's all in there, ready to go. And Green Acre, I learned this that not everyone does this, but they plant them up in pretty big, pulp pots, and they keep the roots really large and intact. And they just all look great, and they're ready to go home now. So if you're looking for a tree or a new rose, now's the time. Check out the bareroot selections in the stores, and let's go ahead and move on to a new question. So this person's asking, I have heavy clay soil, and I think they're not the only ones in the area,
For
right?
sure.
And they say, I want to get a start on getting the soil prepared for my summer garden. Should I add sand? How much should I add? Or is there something better to add?
What's this person's name?
We're not going to say.
Okay. Well, listener, this is actually, I was going to say, give him credit, because this is actually a really good question to ask. And
Okay.
I think a lot of people probably have thought this or have tried it or have considered it. And especially, I grew up with plenty of just clay soil all around my house. I'd get these little kicks like, I'm going to start a garden and plant some flowers. And we would, and we'd do it. And then they would not do so well. And I'm like, what happened? And we're basically, you're planting like in this little plant that's in the perfect soil. Then now you plant it and it's like in hard rock, essentially.
The clay is not good.
It's weird. Like, the hole holds water, but doesn't drain water, but then it doesn't really absorb water. It's like, it was terrible.
But on the other end of that spectrum, because I've looked at that chart.
The sand, silt, clay.
Yeah, loamy is in the middle, and clay is on this one side, and sandy is on the other. So it would make sense if you combined them, you could get to loamy.
I would think, but
not really.
Turns out clay and sand plus water time
Cement.
turns into cement. So please do not add sand, and unless you're growing or gardening for certain plants that really require a sandy soil mix. And sometimes you'll see this with certain desert plants that really require a well-draining soil. Other than that, you never really want to consider adding that soil, especially to the clay, especially if this is going to be in ground for your veggie garden. The best thing to do is going to be to amend your soil heavily with organic matter. It's funny. It starts and ends, Austin.
I know.
With the compost.
Yeah, it's right. It's
So that was
here.
I told you that was the key to success. A lot of the struggle that I was bringing up as a kid, that was a struggle, right? So just having this poor soil that is a huge limiting factor to success. Even if you have a plant that is pretty tolerant of bad soil, if it's not great, it's not a great start. So amending your soil, especially for veggie gardens and growing. I talked about how I was getting fired up. I was thinking, man, gardening gets me fired up to cook. And then when I cook, I'm like, man, what should I grow? And if you want that kind of that fun excitement as well, but paired with success, build up your soil, feed your soil, amend your soil. For that clay, one of the things I really love to suggest is earthworm castings.
Okay.
And it can come back to top dressing. The person, a lot of people go, I got to dig it up and I got to rent a rototiller or get my hands on one. But you know what? What I'm learning from other people and just from my own experience is that just time mixed with a lot of organic matter laying on top of that soil and just the rain, especially right now, you can actually take advantage of the weather. That not only is it cool enough to actually be outside and enjoy yourself and not just be sweating yourself to death, but you can really let these next few months be a great time for you to get some organic matter on that soil. It might be mulch or compost, earthworm castings. Put a thick top dressing. If you were thinking about putting sand, don't put sand. Put a ridiculous amount of earthworm castings and compost.
And then that'll do the trick.
That'll do the
All right.
There you go. It truly will. And the earthworm castings are pretty mellow. You can mix in. You could maybe consider chicken manure, in that combo as well. And that can help you be successful. That sometimes chicken manure might need to compost a little longer. It might be a little hot. But I've had so much success with earthworm castings, especially when it comes to breaking up really difficult soils. So there you go.
Cool.
Stay away from the sand.
Yeah.
Leave the sand to the beaches. If you want sand, go to the beaches, enjoy yourself. But earthworm castings, compost, soil amendment, that's going to be your ticket to really building up that area.
Right on.
And it's
All
possible.
right.
I've seen it. I've
That's
seen
great.
it done.
I hope they can, get to work on it and turn that situation around. That'd be so exciting.
The soil at our school when we started, it was all fill dirt. It had like chunks of asphalt and broken pieces of pipe in there, and a lot of it was clay and gravel, and like it was terrible. You could not. I mean, when we had the kids, like, hey, dig a hole. The shovels were bouncing off and sparking, right? So now, years later, I can wiggle my arm down past my elbow with pretty little effort.
You do that.
And it's all just compost, organic matter, all those things I talked about mixed with a little bit of time. And so, yeah, it's certainly possible.
All right, cool. Thank you for answering all these questions, and thanks to the people who sent some in. And check us out on our Facebook group. We're getting back into it. I'm excited for this new year of all the content that we're going to create and all the guests we're going to have, all the things we're going to do. I'm so excited. So thanks, Kevin, for joining me for another year of fun here. And go ahead and take us out.
Well, thank you so much, Austin, and thanks to our listeners. Happy New Year's to you all.
Yeah.
This week I'm fired up. We got so much to kind of chomp into and digest from the planting of the seeds. Now is the time to kind of look at your seed planting calendar. We didn't even touch on it, but dormant sprays, Austin. Dormant sprays.
Okay.
Get out there. If you have fruit trees, it's a great time to start with dormant sprays, your copper sprays. Top dress that soil. Even if you don't want to get out there and garden right now or grow or plant anything, top dress, compost. It's the way to go. I'm telling you, it's the fastest way to success. Prune and plant your fruit trees right now. Bareroot, Austin, you brought it up. I cannot wait to see your finished video. That's going to be pretty slick. Bareroot fruit trees are so cool. You can get them and bring them home. They're very manageable, but right now it's really cool in that the selection is always going to be the best. At whatever nurseries that are near you, go to your local ones. But you'll notice this is the time of the year where you can kind of have your pick of the litter. There's all these new weird. We should probably do a whole episode just on fruit trees.
Okay.
Because there's always new weird varieties each and every year. I guarantee you, there's ones out this year that I don't even know exist and you've never heard of that probably are going to be delicious and interesting and weird. And I love that. So, lot to consider, lot to think about this week. And the last thing I want to lay my straw hat on is the key to garden success. If you remember anything from this week's episode, folks, the key to garden success is compost, is soil. I brought it in, Austin. It's your gift. You've got a handful of it. Ooh. That is your key to success. So until next week, garden friends, happy gardening to you all. And please, never stop growing.
Composting.
There you go. Yeah, never stop.